of self-doubt. This meditation is a story of how self-doubt can rob you of your greatness and provides thoughts on how to overcome it. Before we begin the story, we need to find a relaxing place to sit or lie down where we will not be disturbed and where we can focus on the story to get the most out of it. Once you find that place, get extra comfortable and cozy and settle in. Let's start by taking some deep breaths as we clear our minds of all that has been occupying it all day. We breathe in the comfort of our surroundings, and we breathe out all of the stress of the day. We breathe in the opportunity to grow, and breathe out the things holding us back. Take a few more deep breaths until you feel ready to immerse yourself in the story ahead. This story is about a guy named Jack. Jack was a pretty smart kid growing up who always had great ideas. He did well in school for the most part, but sometimes he would get lost in a daydream and his teachers would get frustrated at him for not paying attention. Oftentimes it was because he was sketching out an idea he was creating in his mind. Jack was quite the artist. He loved to come up with ways to use the things he had at home to build contraptions that would serve a purpose to solve some type of problem. For instance, his mom had an old-timey alarm clock. You know, the kind with the actual bells on top and the hammer that would rattle between them to create the waking sound. He improved upon his alarm clock by attaching a string from his yo-yo to the hammer, so that when the alarm would go off, the hammer would pull the string just enough to yank on the cup it was tied to sitting atop a shelf by his bed. The cup would be pulled off the shelf, and the dog treats that he had put in the cup the night before would fall on the floor next to his bed, landing on a stainless steel plate that rang in such a way that his dog Marlowe would come running. Every time Marlowe would finish his treats, he would jump on the bed and lick Jack's face to thank him for the treats, and more than likely also to ask for more. Jack couldn't think of a better way to start the day than with kisses from his best buddy Marlowe. When Jack was in 5th grade, he was once again reprimanded by a teacher for focusing on his drawings of his latest and greatest invention, instead of the subject of multiplying the first fraction to the reciprocal of the second in order to divide the fraction. The teacher, Mr. Snodgrass, said loudly for the whole class to hear,
"Earth to Jack, come in, Space Cadet."
The class started to laugh, and from then on, the nickname Space Cadet stuck to Jack with a vengeance. Then, some years later, Jack got his first job working at a donut shop back in the area where they make the donuts. Jack's job was to pull the donuts off the conveyor belt as they moved past him, put the donuts on the large trays that he would then stack on the cart beside him. He was very interested in the mechanics of how this machine worked. It gave him an idea of how to build the generator he was working on, and as he was studying the conveyor belt's inner workings, he forgot all about the donuts, and they just rolled off the conveyor belt onto the floor. His boss, Mr. Mackey, came running into the production line, yelling at Jack, and called him an idiot. Jack apologized profusely, but Mr. Mackey couldn't accept this mistake, and so Jack was fired. Several years later, Jack was in college majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in physics. He had made major strides in his generator invention by this point. A large tech company called Magneto Enterprises was to be visiting his school and would be interviewing some of the engineering students to possibly hire on to their top new project team upon graduation. They were looking for people with innovative ideas on energy production. Many of Jack's classmates had signed up for the interview, but Jack had not. One of his professors approached Jack and said,
Hey, Jack, why aren't you going to interview with Magneto Enterprises? I know you've pretty much perfected your magnetic generator, which is exactly the kind of project Magneto Enterprises is looking for.
Jack shrugged and said,
They aren't looking for a space cadet idiot like me on their team.
And wandered on down the hallway. He gave up the opportunity of a lifetime that day. And why? All because he let his past mistakes and the nicknames given to him as a child follow him around and steal his self-confidence. Those words, space cadet, an idiot, echoed in his head ever since he first heard them. Jack was in no way an idiot or a space cadet, but allowed those words to seep into his subconscious and took them on as his identity. Then, one day, a couple of years later, he was on his way to his job as a manager of a consumer electronics store in town. He was driving his old beat-up Honda he'd had since he got his driver's license, turning left into a major intersection, when he was T-boned by a giant SUV plowing through the intersection. It was a pretty bad wreck, and Jack was knocked unconscious from the force of the collision. The police and the ambulance raced to the scene, dragged Jack out of the car, and rushed him to the hospital. He had a few broken bones and a concussion, but he was going to be just fine. But while he was unconscious, a strange occurrence happened to Jack. It's as if he was watching himself walk away down a dark alley. There was no one there, but all of a sudden he heard a voice say to him,
Jack, you are a brilliant and special soul, put here on this earth to share your creations and make the world a better place. Turn around, go back, and become the man you were born to be. The man you've always been, despite the names others may have called you. There are no names suitable to describe your magnificence, so don't let the names that others may have called you in their own ignorance define you any longer. You are destined for great things.
At that moment, Jack saw himself turn around and head back out of the alley, and as he did, the dark alley behind him grew lighter and lighter, until all of a sudden, Jack awoke in the hospital. The nurse by his side was so glad to see he was okay, bandaged his wounds, and the doctor sent him on his way. Because he had broken his leg, Jack had to stay out of work for 2 weeks. While on this medical leave, he watched quite a bit of TV, as one would with a broken leg and nowhere to go. One day he saw a commercial for that company, Magneto Enterprises, that had come to interview his class in college. In the commercial, they stated they were looking for the next team of engineering pioneers to take them into the future with their latest quest for renewable energy. Jack thought to himself about how he had developed a generator that ran on magnets alone, which is a totally different energy source than the common wind or solar power sources. Then he had a flashback of the voice he heard while he was unconscious in the hospital, telling him to become the man he was born to be and to share his creations with the world. He knew in his heart this invention had the power to do a lot of good in the world. And even though so many people had called him a space cadet or an idiot through his life, that he had in fact created something special. All of a sudden, his self-doubt vanished as he realized that it wasn't the name callers holding him back, but it was his own self-doubt. No one ever had anything against Jack, or ever really thought poorly of him. They were just unaware of the light Jack had within him because he had been too scared to let it shine. Now, Jack was ready. He scribbled down the number as it flashed by the TV screen at the end of the commercial. They said to call if you thought you had what it takes to take the world of engineering into the future and beyond. So Jack called the number, and a nice lady answered, saying,
Magneto Enterprises, where the future is created. How may I direct your call?
Jack told the lady he'd seen the commercial and had a prototype he wanted to demo for them and was wondering what the process was. The lady on the phone told him about the open call interview that would be held at the local Hilton Hotel in a month's time. She took down his details and said she would email him an application to fill out and bring with him to the interview. Jack thanked the lady, hung up, and dared to dream of the success he would soon come into. Without that self-doubt holding him back anymore, Jack was ready to shine brighter than the sun. The interview came and went. Jack's prototype worked like a charm, challenged several laws of physics, and won the day. He was hired on the spot. His invention went on first to change the auto industry and then revolutionize the global power grid. Jack became a scientific hero with the likes of Einstein, Newton, Nikola Tesla, and others. Our world was changed for the better by reducing our carbon footprint, saving many of our endangered and fought-over natural resources, and created an economic boom over the entire world. It also challenged science as it was once known and opened the door for many more scientific breakthroughs and discoveries. Imagine if Jack had never come to realize that it was his self-doubt holding him back in life. It was never about the perceptions of others or their judgments of him. The disconnect was in fact within himself. Once he came to realize this, he saw how ridiculous it was. Why would he have all of these great ideas within his own mind, and yet his own mind would keep him from sharing his ideas? It just didn't make logical sense. So think about your own life, your own ideas, your own dreams. What is stopping you from living them out? Could it be self-doubt? Really examine it. We tend to find reasons outside of ourselves to stop us from doing the things we most want to do. But if we really analyze it, it's quite possible the thing holding us back is actually ourselves. It's both a shame and a blessing. It's a shame that we would allow ourselves to not do the things we most want to do. Yet a blessing that it is only us stopping ourselves from achieving greatness. We have the power to change ourselves better than we can change others. So look at this as an opportunity to rise above and do amazing things with your life. Self-doubt has no place in the path of your destiny. Recognize your strengths and your ability to grow and change. You can do and become anything in this world. It might not look the way you thought it would, but it can be achieved with determination and belief in yourself. I believe in you. So go forth, look within, and let your light shine bright.